Hello, Maui developers. How are you all doing here? We've been talking about a lot of the stuff that's been released. Now I am here to get into the gritty a little bit, show you some of the new features that have been released. I have a nice little app that I put together to demonstrate these as well. So let's just dive right in. .NET MAUI for .NET 7 general availability. Yay! Clapping sound. So there was, as Dave had mentioned on the thing we did, there were a lot of usability improvements, but we also were able to sneak a few new features in that we're all excited about. We added the foldable APIs. So in Xamarin Forms, that was the dual screen NuGet, but now it is coming at you as the foldable NuGet. So Craig Dunn did a wonderful job porting all of those over to Maui concepts. And so now you can use the two-pane view, and you can use, you can basically reach into the APIs now on any sort of foldable device. So it's nice because now it's based on the Android bits for that. So it works with any Samsung foldable or your Surface Duo as well. So yeah, give those ones a try. Window positioning, which gives you a lot of ability to interact with the window, set positions, move it around. Yeah, and then we also added tooltips. So they give you some nice added contextual information, context menus. So we're going to kind of run through these in more elaborate detail throughout. So just kind of touching on what we've added. But yeah, context menus have been added to Catalyst and WinUI. So you can get the nice little flyouts that pop out, and you can add actions to things. There was a number of accessibility improvements because we're constantly iterating our accessibility and monitoring and making sure that we are staying accessible with each release. Another very exciting thing, pointer gesture, which has also added some pointer over Visual State Manager features, which is very exciting. So you can add some really cool styling. And then we also added secondary click and some position data. Position data. So now if you've ever wondered, now that I've clicked there, where did I click? Well, you can ask the system. It'll tell you where you clicked. Pretty exciting. So context menus basically are attached to a single element. They display secondary commands. You can invoke it by secondary clicking or an equivalent action. They are added through an attached property, flyout-base.context flyout. So we used the WinUI API for this one, just to kind of keep things familiar. All the types of menus that you can add are the same as you can add with WinUI as well. So you can add the flyout, you can add a flyout item, you can add a separator, and then you can add like a sub item if you want sort of like sub views, which is exciting. So you can kind of see how this sort of surfaces. On the left here, we have Catalyst. Pretty. And then on the right here, we have WinUI. Context menus. Tooltips. So tooltips, the lesser version of a context menu, just gives you nice information on, say, images, or if you just need a little bit more context on something, we have tooltips. So those surface out in a number of ways. Those are on all of the platforms, which is nifty. So basically, you can hover over with your mouse on either WinUI or Catalyst, and you get this nice little pop-up. And then on Android and iOS, you touch and hold, and then it pops up. So we will see that in the chat app coming up here. So that is also added via attached properties. So currently we have only the text property on there, and you can apply it to any layout or element, and it'll give you a nice little tooltip. So here I am adding the tooltips to the shell flyout items, which we will see in the chat demo. Pointer gesture recognizer. So this is a very exciting one. I know a lot of, especially desktop users, were very excited. We're saying can't really do much if you don't have a pointer gesture. So now we've added a pointer gesture recognizer. which has all your basic entered, exited, and moved. So as you are tracking on Catalyst Android or WinUI, you can just move the mouse over. As it enters something, the gesture will fire, and you can start getting information on where the pointer's at. Alongside this, we also added the positional data, so we can kind of see the APIs for that here. So Rachel Kang did a great job adding all of the pointer gesture features across all of the platforms. So for the pointer gesture, and it's a similar API for the tap gesture. Essentially, you can just you use get position, and then you pass in the element that you want sort of the relative position to. So in this first example, the sender is on your args. So this is basically giving you the position relative to the view that the gesture is on. And then get position with null gives you relative to the window. And then you can pass arbitrary views into it, and it will tell you the position relative to that arbitrary element. So you can see here with this very fast demo going, you can see it kind of showing the positions. So it's hovering over this label in the middle, which has the gesture, and you can see that the positional data is updating. So you can see here with the window, the Y has a bit of an offset. The X's are all the same because everything's lined up. And then here's the position relative to this label. You can see it's a negative Y position because it's above the label. So the pointer gesture was exciting because that was a precursor to pointer over visual state, which is very exciting. I know David was super excited about this. He kept asking, where's my pointer over visual state? I think it's part of his weekly reminders to bug us about pointer over visual state every Monday. I'm curious what he's going to update that with now, but for now, he was happy last Monday. So pointer over visual state. What can we do? VSM. Who loves your VSM? Here we go. Normal. You can set the background color. This is your normal background. And then you can set pointer over. Easy as that. And look what you get. Ooh, colors. Isn't that neat? Look at that. I'm just moving the pointer over it, and it's changing colors. It's amazing. All right, tap gesture recognizer improvements. So along the lines with the pointers, we have tap gesture. So we added button mask. So this is still on the lines of desktop improvements. We have you'll notice this mask, which came from the click gesture recognizer in Xamarin Forms. In Xamarin Forms, the click gesture recognizer only worked on macOS. It wasn't wired up anywhere else. So we got rid of it, and we just coalesced it around tap gesture recognizer. So basically, it's a flag. So you can OR together what you want the gesture to recognize. So if you want it to be secondary, you can just do secondary, or you can do secondary or primary, and it'll be both. The default is just primary. Tapped event args. So tapped event args are on the tap gesture recognizer, and that's exciting now because you can get the positional data from the tap gesture recognizer. So basically the same APIs. Here's a very exciting demo. Ooh, tap. See, over here, I'm right-clicking this label. Over here, I'm right and left-clicking. So if you look over here, you'll see when the mouse goes over it, there's a second when it doesn't do anything. That's because I'm left-clicking and it's not doing anything. So it's demonstrating that only secondary click works. So just imagine there's a little bubble popping out and nothing's happening because it's working. So tap gesture recognizer improvements. So this one works on, let's see, right-click works on, yeah, secondary click, sorry, works on Android, Catalyst, and WinUI. Let that marinate. All right, foldable support. This is when the slides get fancy and the foldables get exciting. So foldable support. This is we'll demo this on an actual Duo simulator here in a second. And you'll see the different pivots. So basically this view is using a 2-pane view to power the ability to work across I don't know what forget what the official name is this now, the divide, the chasm, the black abyss. I don't know. To work across that, the middle part aspect. So here we can see this is implementing the exciting list details pattern. Effectively, when you click on it, it goes to a details element. and then you can go back, it goes out of a details element. Ooh, exciting. So here you can see now I've dragged it over, and then this then splits it out into a 2-pane view. So you get the very exciting the right chat aspect and the left chat aspect, which is really neat. All right, now hold your horses. This one's pretty exciting. Ooh, look at that, I'm rotating it. Boom. And now if you look here, you'll see this is now when you rotate it so that you're like this direction, fancy, then you get this different view here. So basically, this is setting a 2-pane view, which is a very powerful grid, and it kind of sets the way these sizes work. So in order to use the foldable aspects with a foldable device, you call use foldable on the builder, which is the central point where you call everything now in Maui, because that's super cool. Instead of having to add these weird little statements in this random place on all of your platform files, you have this nice little builder inside your Maui program file that you can just attach stuff to, all XPlat on there. So yeah, use foldable. And the main thing that does is wire up a lot of the Android events. So if you're not necessarily interested in the actual device events, you can still use the 2-pane view. So if you really like the 2-pane view, just add the foldable NuGet, and foldable is a NuGet. So you add it as a NuGet. It's not part of like any of the workload parts. So yeah, just add the foldable NuGet, similar to how you'd add maps. All right, Windows position and location APIs. So they're pretty basic. You create your window, you set your height, you set your width, set your X, set your Y, and those things set. The only slight caveat is that the X, if I remember correctly, the X and the Y don't quite work in Catalyst because of some limitations on the Catalyst side of things. But this also has maximum width and maximum and minimum height, maximum and minimum width. So all the APIs you could hope for on a window. And these properties so here, let me click one more time, let this super cool transition play. All right, check that out. So this is in our samples gallery on our repository. So you can see the way that the APIs interact with. You can see me accidentally clicking on it and nothing happens because I should have recorded a new video, but this is what we got. So if you move this around, you'll see, oh, look at the X and Y are updating. Isn't that neat? So the X and the Y update, so these properties are all getters and setters, essentially. So as you resize, these properties will update. You can subscribe to size changed on the window if you're curious to track your window size changes. So you'll see where I'm using that in the list details here in my repository. Yeah, so that video is exciting. Nice Windows API. So thank you, Matthew Liebowitz, for putting all those APIs together. I know that was a big effort, but it's cool. Look, you can do like the centering. It's neat. I know that right when we got multi-windows, everybody wanted to indicate where to put them. So there you go, multi-windows. All right, and with every release, we always want to be improving the accessibility story. So I definitely wanted to highlight that accessibility is a focus on every single release. Thursday, I'm pretty sure it's Thursday, Rachel King is doing a presentation on accessibility, so make sure to check out her presentation. If I remember correctly, it's Thursday. So accessibility updates. We've closed around 35 accessibility bugs, that's fun to say, accessibility bugs in the last period. There was a heavy focus on the Windows desktop experience in this last push. We had a recipes app that we've built, which is actually on Rachel's GitHub. If you go to Rachel King's GitHub, you can see the app that we've built that we run through all the accessibility testing. So there was a big focus on Windows issues, and we cleared up a lot of, yeah, we made the default experience with Shell very accessible, which is super cool. So basically, all you have to do is add your flout items, and boom, they're accessible. So this is essentially what the narrator is going to read out. Some honorable mentions. These have kind of been around since Net 6, but I just wanted to kind of touch on them because I think they're very exciting within a multi-window world. We have the menu bars. We did add the menu flyout separator. That is one new thing that Elon added. Ooh, menu separator, pretty fancy. And then scoped services. So a lot of the services stuff is going to start really coming into play with NET 7, and then especially with NET 7 is going to be a big one where we're sort of shaping the way users want this stuff to work. And then, yeah, and then we're going to have some, it's going to be really cool. But you can also do really cool things now in NET 6 and NET 7, which I will show you in the sample. So here is the menu bar. Pretty basic. Look at that. There you go, menu bar. So the menu bar on Catalyst pushes into the system menu up at the top here. And I didn't show it here, but it figures out kind of where to put it. So for example, if you were to call this menu bar item file, it would put the items inside the file menu here. On Windows, it puts them up here in the title bar. Scoped services via the MS extension dependency injection services. So basically, your three friends in this area add singleton, which is anything that's going to be scoped at your app level. So those are things you create once, use everywhere. Add scoped. These are scoped to your window. So every single time that we create a window, that has a new scope. So it's cool if you want things to go per window. So you'll see kind of some neat stuff that we do there. And then add transient is just your single use types that you get, and then you throw away and you forget about. Ooh, transition. So here we have kind of some, just kind of your example, singleton, scope, transient. And there it is injecting into the constructor, resolving into the constructor. All right, demo. All right, so let me sort of bring up let me do that. And then let's click over on the demo. Let's hope those Teams notifications aren't important. And here, so this is the basics of the demo. One thing I wanted to sort of show was the it's kind of some desktop features, which are exciting. So here we have the desktop features where you can hover, pointer over. Isn't that neat? And then the other features that we have here, adaptive triggers. So you can use the adaptive triggers here to sort of give yourself different pivots, which is really neat. So this is how you can kind of make adaptive APIs. So you can see as I shrink this, the API changes. Ooh, nice. Isn't that neat? So if I go below, I think 600 is what I set it to. It basically pushes a page. And if I go higher I forget the width. How wide? I couldn't get it wide enough. This is what happens when I change the aspect ratio during the presentation. But yeah, if I could go wide enough, you would see these go down to a single image. So yeah, so on the so that has the Visual State Manager. Here you have kind of the cool features with your context menus. You can basically just add the context menus, and you can just do a nice little right click, open a new window, right click, open a new window. And then we also added these here to the shell elements, which is cool. So you can do new chat, and then you can do a pop open new chat here. And then I kind of used Teams to inspire the design of this one. So basically, they had this whole kind of thing where you could like pop out a new chat and see here you can do a username. I am Shane Billy, and it's neat because you can kind of just click OK, and then it opens in a new window right here. See, isn't that neat? And what you can do here is you can now enter a message. I am a new message here, and the message updates into both windows. So that's because that's how I have it written, which is cool. So that is, let me switch the notes. There we go. All right. So the cool thing that we have here as well is that a lot of this stuff can kind of work through, this whole app is kind of wired up through injection as well, through resolution. So you can kind of see resolving all these cool properties here. Ooh, cool properties. The chat here. So if we look at the chat window is basically basically this whole view here. So we have the nice 2-pane view. which is just a collection view. And then over here is a nice chat conversation. And then the way this works is we can kind of set up the different features on the 2-pane view. Here's the min wide mode. So the min wide mode is when it's sort of stretching this direction. It's changing the way it's moving. So yeah, so that's really cool with your sort of 2-pane view features. And then we have the pointer over, which is nice and simple here. Nice visual state manager here, just doing what you need to do there. One of the other cool this is just kind of a highlight feature on the MAUI stuff. It's neat that we can get these kind of cool, you get a lot of the cool clipping now with the border, like the stroke shapes on the border control. So you can do these really cool sort of like designs. Isn't that neat? Look at those cool designs. I think that's neat. So yeah, so that's how the chat stuff is wired up. Let's see, now I kind of wanted to go into some of the details on here. So it's kind of neat because you can inject all your services. The other thing is you can inject, I have kind of a scoped window set up here that I'll push up to the repository that you can check out. But the whole idea is that you can kind of inject, you can have multiple shells in your different windows, and you can inject like the conversation, the service. So this is like your singleton service, your shell, which is at each window level, and your application for doing things like opening a new window. So if you look down here, this is basically where I'm like opening a new window, which is exciting. And then I'd inject the dispatcher in because that's sort of handling the concept of having multiple updates here. Why is it not selecting the update? There it is. All right, I don't know why I wasn't doing that, but that's what's kind of handling the ability for the updates to go in multiple places, is that each view model basically gets a dispatcher injected in here, and then it's able to sort of dispatch to its particular windows. So the dispatcher is registered. We register that one. So you can kind of just put that on anything, and the dispatcher that's relevant for your particular scenario will open up. So yeah, I mean, it kind of enables a lot of really neat scenarios here. So let me sort of walk through the flow. When you open up a new window, like if you open up a new window here, I'm basically setting a chat ID on the chat window. And then now this is like a new window here. And so now inside the chat window, I'm grabbing our chat ID, and then I can effectively do a shell go to async here with the chat ID inside the creation of the window. So at some point, we will hopefully, at one point, shell had routes on it. We removed that when shell first came around, but at some point, we might be able to route by shell. Ooh, and open up new windows, which would be cool. But for now, this basically does a go to, this tells on the created on the window, it says, hey, shell, I want you to go to the main page conversation, which then in the main page conversation here, we have this nice little query property. It sets the chat ID. Here we get the grab the conversation, set the binding context. Yeah, and you can see we're resolving all of these fun little things onto this main page. The dispatcher, so we can dispatch stuff. iNavigation, so basically in my MAUI program, I have iNavigation registers as scoped service. So I can inject the iNavigation, I can resolve the iNavigation, and then I can use that also inside my view models. Or you could use shell here as well. So I don't know, lots of really cool glue and things that you can put together here. And then let's see. Yeah, so I think at this point I'll probably kick it back over to Matt, because it looks like we're hitting up to the 3:55 point to sort of handle any sort of questions or additional context. Yeah.
Thank you, Shane. That was awesome. Oh my goodness. We have time for one quick question. All right, we're gonna go rapid fire. This is from someone who I recently found out lives around the corner from me. Kind of creepy, but true. Lance, name of McCarthy. Lance wants to know if the new .NET MAUI windowing APIs include consideration for platform styling, such as acrylic and all those other cool things you get.
Not yet.
Ooh.
No. Unfortunately, they don't. The acrylic stuff came little bit too late for us to kind of start messing around with, but that'll be definitely a focus to work on. I know Tim, who does a lot of the VIA, works on a lot of our live visual tree stuff, was able to wire it together. So you can definitely do it. There's you can definitely wire into the stuff to do it, but we don't have it quite at the it's not like a default behavior yet. But kind of one quick example here I wanted to show along those lines. So I basically have this scoped window that I'm using, and I have an example of this code where you can uncomment this.
Shane, you have like 10 seconds to show us this.
Oh,
I'm not even kidding.
I'm not going to show you. I'm just saying it extends the content into the title bar. So this is me influencing the platform view from the scoped window with the Windows context.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, maybe we'll do acrylic for .NET 8, right?
Yeah.
Shane, thank you so much. Everyone can find you on Twitter and all the other internet places that people are now.